ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ ਸਿੱਖ ਜਨ ਟੀਮ ਪਹੁੰਚੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਟ੍ਰਿਨੀਡੈਡ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਹੁਣ ਇੰਟਰਵਿਊ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਸੱਤ ਕੌਰ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸੱਤ ਕੌਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਡੈਡੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਦੇਰ ਸੇਵਾ ਕੀਤੀ ਗ੍ਰੰਥੀ ਵੀ ਰਹੇ ਐਂਡ ਇੱਥੇ ਟ੍ਰਿਨੀਡੈਡ ਜਦੋਂ ਕੋਈ ਸਿੱਖ ਬਹੁਤ ਥੋੜ੍ਹੇ ਸਿੱਖ ਸੀ ਉਹਨੇ ਆ ਕੇ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਦੀ ਸੇਵਾ ਕੀਤੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਸੀ ਕਰਮ ਸਿੰਘ ਲੁਧਿਆਣੇ ਤੋਂ ਆਏ ਸੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਸੇਵਾ ਕੀਤੀ ਗ੍ਰਾਂਥੀ ਤੌਰ 'ਤੇ ਕਾਫੀ ਸੇਵਾ ਕੀਤੀ ਪਰ ਬਦਕਿਸਮਤ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਸੱਤ ਕੌਰ ਹੁਣ ਇਹ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਬੋਲਦੇ ਇਹ ਕਰਕੇ ਹੈਗਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇੱਥੇ ਜਿਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਜਨਮ ਹੈਗਾ ਸੀ ਟ੍ਰਿਨੀਡੈਡ ਇੱਥੇ ਇਸ ਮਾਹੌਲ ਨਾਲ ਇਹ ਰਲ ਮਿਲ ਕੇ ਇਕੱਲੀ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਬੋਲ ਸਕਦੇ ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਇੰਟਰਵਿਊ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਪੇਸ਼ ਕਰਨਾ ਸੱਤ ਕੌਰ ਵੈਲਕਮ ਟੂ ਸਿੱਖ ਚੈਨਲ
Thank you so much.
We'd like to learn about your life and your family history. Perhaps we can begin with your father. Can you tell us your father's name?
My father's name was Karam Singh. That's it.
And what year did he come to Trinidad? Where did he come from?
He came from Ludhiana, Punjab in India, and it would have been around the 30s.
1930.
Yes, 30s. I don't know exactly what year, but it would have been in the 30s.
And what did he do when he first came here? What was his job or work?
Well, he did a bit of everything because he was a total stranger. He was a lone person who came. Nobody came with him. And he met some other people from India and he got close to them and he did the odd jobs. And later he settled with a company called the Turban Brand Factory, the owner of that was Mr. Himraj Singh from India, and he settled there and he worked there until he passed away.
And can you tell us about your mother? Where was your mother from?
My mother was Trinidadian. My father met her here quite a few years after he came. He was introduced to her and he got married, but she was not Sikh. She was Hindu, Sanatanis.
She was from a Hindu background and they got married. And your father, he was very close to the Gurdwara. Can you tell us about that?
Oh yes. From the time he came here, there was a very small structure, a very humble structure on that present premise. And he got to find out about it from Mr. Hardat Singh, who was his boss, whose grandfather, Mr. Himraj, had built that simple structure. And seeing that he was Punjabi and he knew the language and was able to read the Guru Granth Sahib, he was actually pulled into the Gurdwara. And there he served as a Granthi until he passed away.
Was he very close to the Gurdwara? Was that in his heart and his faith?
Oh yes, I would say so. Even if he was not well, sometimes I would see tears in his eyes and he would still have his gutka and he would be going to Gurdwara and all of us had to go with him. I am one of 8 children who were born to him and we all had to go there. My father was married to my mother. The ceremony took place in the Gurdwara and we were there from birth. We took Amrit there. All of my siblings took Amrit there and we are there to this day. And also my grandchildren, my children, they all took Amrit in Gurdwara and they still attend. And I'm so happy that my grandchildren, who are 2 girls, are very closely attached to Gurdwara.
And can you tell us about your life when you grew up here in Trinidad? What sort of life did you have?
Well, what I would say a normal, simple life, because my father was a very simple person, no extravagance, but his main objective in life was to follow the religion of the Sikhs. And up to this day, I think I have taken that commitment from him. And up to this day, I am in the Gurdwara.
He was a very committed Sikh, Karam Singh, your father. Once he arrived in Trinidad, did he ever get to go back to the Punjab, to his homeland, and see the Harmandir Sahib, or go back and do darshan? Did he ever get a chance to return?
No, he did not want to go because of the commitment he had to his family here. That was his reason for not wanting to leave. We are 8 of us, and it was a great commitment, and well, my mother never worked, so he had to provide for my mother and 8 of us.
And the Sikh community here is a very small community in Trinidad. At that time, how big was the community?
Sometimes you would have 3 or 4 people in the Gurdwara, other than us. And then it started growing. So,
What changes have you seen in the Sikh community from your father passed away in 1975, from the 70s to now in the last 40 years or so?
well, I have not seen much changes, except that we have people who are not really Sikhs, but they are there and they follow, I wouldn't say in a stringent way, but they do follow some of their teachings. And
Is that because they have a Sikh ancestry? They have some Sikh background, one parent or grandparent?
I don't know, I can't answer that. I don't know.
And how do you feel today? Because your father was very close to the Sikh faith, to the Gurdwara, and when we arrived at your home, you kindly welcomed the Sikh Channel team and said, "Welcome to a Sikh home."
I feel great about that. And it's an opportunity that I may not see again in my life because I'm over 70. And I'm very happy that, I was able to meet such a group. So I feel proud about that, to share whatever knowledge I have of the Sikh religion.
And did you ever get a chance to go yourself to India, to any of the Sikh places of worship, the important places in Punjab or India?
No. Because of the same commitment to my family, I prefer to stay with my family. I'm a family-oriented person.
And that connection for some people who've moved from Punjab, from India, moved to Trinidad, which is very far away, to the other side of the world. It is very far. Is it very hard, do you think, to keep a connection to their faith and to the original base of the Sikh faith, which is the Punjab?
I didn't get that so clear.
Do you think it's difficult to keep that connection because of the distance, because it is so far away, and travelling is difficult for you? How do you keep that connection with your faith, not being able to visit the original places in Punjab and see other Sikh people and the places of worship, for example, like Harmandir Sahib?
I think the distance is a factor. And then, it's pretty expensive to go to India, and maybe some of us, it's sort of difficult to do that.
Perhaps via Sikh Channel, because the Sikh Channel is a TV station, but you can also watch online. We show a lot of Sikh faith programming in Punjabi and English. Perhaps you can connect through Sikh Channel.
Well, I think that's a splendid idea, and maybe from now I will be looking at that to, see what I learn and whatever from that channel. So I think it's a splendid idea.
And your daughters and grandchildren, have they been able to keep their connection to their Sikh faith? Do you think it will dilute, or will they remain as resolute and strong in their Sikh connection as you were?
Well, I would hope so. But so far, there has been, the interest and the commitment, and I hope it will continue. I don't know when I'm not here, but as I am here, I try to emphasize and make sure that, they keep it alive. So,
Do you still go to the Gurdwara?
of course, I go there every Sunday. In the days of my father, it used to be just one Sunday, the first Sunday of the month, and we had to go whether we wanted or not. My father would insist. Yeah, God blessed his soul. Yeah, that he had me into that, and I am presently following it stringently.
And the children and grandchildren, do they go to the Gurdwara now?
Yes, they all do. Yeah.
Also in Trinidad, because it was so far from Punjab and India, there were a lot of marriages between different communities, between Sikhs and Hindus and so on, and interfaith marriages as they're called. How do you think that affected people's ability to keep their own Sikh faith?
Well, it did affect us because my mother was Trinidadian. She could not speak the language, number one. When my father tried to speak to her, he had to speak in English, and we were in the middle. We did not grasp much of his language, which was the Gurmukhi language. And I feel so sad about that today, that we did not even grasp the language. He tried, but the difference in the language was a barrier. So we don't know much about the language. But here and there I would understand a few things,
So you feel language is very important to keep connection to one's faith?
I think so. It's utmost important. But sadly, we did not have that opportunity to learn the language. He tried on many occasions, but was not successful.
Because you don't speak much Punjabi now.
No. But I like, if anybody's having a conversation here and there, I would pick up, a little thing and see the trend or know the trend of what they are talking. But I cannot speak it.
And what do you feel in your heart? Where do your roots lie and your spirit? Do you feel very close to the Sikh community, Sikh faith? Or are you a Trinidadian or close to the Hindu faith because you had both influences in your life? What do you feel is your identity now?
My faith lies in Gurdwara. Wholly and solely, it lies in the Gurdwara and the Sikh faith. I will not move away for nothing. That's how I feel about Sikhism. But I try reading in English about the religion, and I think to myself, I have enough knowledge to take me through of the Sikh religion. Simple things. It's a simple language. Simple religion, which I like very much, and I will die for it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for sharing your heartfelt thoughts. And despite all the challenges you've had in your life and not having the benefit or the opportunity to learn Punjabi, and your father's great influence upon you, and his passion and his love for his community, Sikh faith, has remained with you. And that's really your father's legacy. And it's a great credit to him and to you for being true to your Sikh faith. And even though you can't speak the language and not being able to connect with Punjabi or with the teachings directly, you have remained committed in your heart, and that's very inspiring for us.
Yes, I think I owe it all to my father. And it's because of him and his legacy that I stay committed to the Gurdwara. And I'll never give it up at all.
Thank you very much. That was Satgor here in Trinidad. Her father, Karam Singh, who did a lot of seva. He arrived in Trinidad in approximately 1930s, and spent most of his adult life here, arriving as a teenager when he was just 16 years old, and passed away sadly in 1975. But he did leave a lasting impression upon his family, and Sikh Channel will also do what we can to help Satgor and her daughters and grandchildren keep alive their Sikh faith and their attachment to the Gurdwara, and we'll be discussing that with you before we leave.
Thank you so much. I appreciate very much, and I did enjoy this session, I would say. Thanks again.
Thank you very much. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I'm very pleased to be joined by Gyan Kaur. Gyan Kaur is the daughter of Sat Kaur. Gyan, can you tell us briefly about your grandfather? What do you remember about him?
I remember just being 5 years when he passed away. So there are many fond memories, childhood memories. I can't say much about Gurdwara and my grandfather, but I remember him taking me to Gurdwara. And basically, at 5 years old, I just remember being there and nothing more about my grandfather.
And society in Trinidad is quite a mixed society, and there's a lot of interfaith marriages. People marry between the communities. Do you think that's successful? Has it been successful for you in terms of keeping alive your father's faith? He was very attached to the Sikh faith. He was very, very religious, and he loved the Gurdwara. He loved his faith. And do you think that legacy has remained through the generations, through to your generation?
Most of my cousins within the family, they have maintained the relationships. And it's, even though they have married into Hindu homes, we still become one family when we visit Gurdwara. And we are there for all occasions. Even the Sundays that they are normal ceremonies at the temple, at the Gurdwara, we are always there. So I don't think that has been a barrier as such. It's very difficult to find Punjabi men in Trinidad. So I guess when we marry into Hindu backgrounds, I continue to go to Gurdwara even though I haven't been married to a Sikh gentleman. But his background is very firm in the Sikh religion, so it hasn't really hampered my ability to get to Gurdwara. And I am passing my traditions down to my girls.
That's very important to keep alive your grandfather's legacy. And in terms of language as well, because you only speak English, you don't speak Punjabi, which is the language of the Sikhs.
No, sadly, we're not exposed to the Gurmukhi that I would really love to learn. In that way, I feel a little bit challenged when I get to Gurdwara because I have to always be holding a translation. And I have to depend on English translations when I'm at Gurdwara. Even the Sukhmani, all the prayers that we say, you always have to depend on that English translation. And you hope that whatever they are translating for you, it's the full substance of what has been read in the Gurmukhi.
Because much can be lost in translation, and the Gurmukhi does not translate perfectly or completely into English, and the essence can be lost.
That's correct. I mean, I would do some shabads at Gurdwara, but I am certain, even though it comes from the heart, I am certain that I do make errors in pronunciation. But, I mean, they encourage us to always partake in the happenings, whatever is going on at Gurdwara.
And I notice you wear the kara, and it's very important that you keep a symbol of Sikh identity. How important is the kara to you? And do your children wear kara as well?
I have always worn my kara, except through school. There are certain institutions here that would challenge the wearing of other religious aspects. So during my school time, I did not wear the kara. There are certain schools here as well. So even my children, sometimes they are not able to carry through with the kara during school time. But during the weekend, if they go into Gurdwara, they will, of course, wear the kara.
Is it a demand for Punjabi language, do you think, in Trinidad? Because we met a number of people on our visit, the Sikh Channel team, and our motto is to bring millions of Sikhs together, join Sikh community together and to their faith. And is it a need or demand for people to learn Punjabi, do you think, here in Trinidad?
The population here is so small. I think if you are limiting it to Gurdwara and the population there, I would say yes, it is important. I would love my children to know the language and to be able to take that into, their children and children to come. outside of Gurdwara, there is not much knowledge of Sikhism. Sikhism is now beginning to unravel in Trinidad. So, I mean, to get Punjab as a language coming through, I don't know how popular it's going to be just yet.
It's okay. Sikh Channel will certainly try and do what we can to help bring Punjabi language classes to the Sikh community in Trinidad, but also the Gurdwara, it only opens on Sundays.
That's correct. And again, it's because our population here is so small. I mean, now we feel a little more appreciated when Gurdwara opens at least 4 Sundays on the month. Back in my days, it used to be just one Sunday we would have service at the Gurdwara. And then, even then, the service would be such a small congregation. And it would just be the few children who would come in. And, you know, now things are evolving at the Gurdwara. We have much more people. The commission has brought in so many more people. So there are much more people at the congregation. So, in a sense, yes, being at Gurdwara is a great feeling.
And finally, what's your message to the worldwide Sikh community? Sikh Channel reaches Sikhs all over the world. What message would you like to give to other Sikhs, perhaps, who are also living in isolated, small communities like yourself here in Trinidad?
I would say to them, don't let numbers be any barrier. If it's embedded in your heart to be a Sikh, no matter what happens, no matter what the numbers are, you turn up there and with a genuine heart, you give of your best. Even if you don't know the language, you read the translated versions and Babaji will honor your prayer. And if it comes from your heart, you just go out and you visit Gurdwara and you pray with all solemnity.
Thank you very much. That's an inspiring message from Gyan Kaur, daughter of Sat Kaur, and this legacy is from their grandfather of Gyan Kaur, Karam Singh from Ludhiana, who came to Trinidad many, many years ago in the 1930s, did a lot of seva in the Gurdwara Sahib and instilled in his family a real passion and a love for the Sikh faith, which we can see has remained until this day. But they have lacked in knowledge and accessibility and language. And that partly is the job of Sikh Channel, to try and help bridge that gap. And we certainly do what we can to assist. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.